Look, baseball's fun. Is it more fun when your team wins? Yeah, it is. Is it still fun even when your team loses? That might be up for debate. Let's talk about it on All Dodgers. What's up, Dodger fans? This is the All Dodgers podcast, part of the Bleav Network of podcasts, brought to you by FanDuel. I am Jeff Snyder, coming to you live from my mom's basement here in Pleasant Grove, Utah. How does my mom's basement reside in Pleasant Grove, Utah, when my mom resides in Lake Elsinore, California? Only the internet knows. But here we are to talk about the Dodgers getting swept by the Pirates. The Pirates. The Pittsburgh Pirates. The Pirates of Pittsburgh. The Pirates who are currently in last place in the National League Central Division. The Pirates who have scored the fewest runs in Major League Baseball this year. That Pirates team just swept the Dodgers team. The Dodgers team that is currently in first place in the National League West. Dodgers team that, last I checked, had scored the most runs in Major League Baseball. Is that still true? Nope. The Brewers have passed them. So the Dodgers have only scored it looks like the Yankees have too. So third most runs in baseball. Still, team with the third most runs ought to be able to beat the team with the fewest runs, right? Hashtag math, baby. It didn't happen in any of the games in this series. The Dodgers got swept by the Pirates, and they are now, Dodgers are 78-62. 16 games over 500. And it feels like a low point for the season. I think we could probably all agree on that. Hopefully it's a low point, right? Because the alternative is that it keeps getting worse. And the fact is, there have been times this year when the Dodgers weren't in first place. So how can right now, when they are in first place, be a low point? Well, they just got swept by the Pittsburgh Pirates. And yes, the Pirates have played better lately. I think they've won, 12 of their last 16 games, something like that. Since they got a new manager, they're a 500 team over a pretty significant sample size. They're probably not as bad as their overall record suggests. Their pitching staff is actually really good. They have the most shutouts in baseball. Obviously, Paul Skeens is great. All of that said, talent-wise, the Dodgers should win a series over the Pittsburgh Pirates. Because talent-wise, while the Pirates may have some good pitching and some promising prospects and whatever else you want to say, the Dodgers players should play better than the Pirates players based on their track records, who they are, et cetera, et cetera. And they didn't do that this week, obviously, because they lost all three games. The offense was very disappointing. They went 17 straight innings without a run. The offense in the first game of the series was actually pretty good. It was the pitching, Clayton Kershaw's rough first inning and then a rough 4 innings from the bullpen that cost the Dodgers the game in the first game of the series. But the offense put up 7 runs. We're like, hey, okay, you know what? Turn it around pitching and we'll be fine. And then the offense said, okay, we did our part, and now we're going to go to sleep for 17 innings. And then, they scored 7 runs in the first game, 3 runs in the last inning, and 0 runs in the 17 innings in between. And then, when that happens, even any hiccups on the pitching side, yesterday it was Emmett Sheehan giving up 2 solo home runs. Today it was Blake Snell, who kind of imploded in the 5th inning. But, I don't know if it has anything to do with the offense, the stress of our offense isn't going to score. I have to be perfect. Maybe it's harder to pitch like that. I don't know. It might just be, there's things to talk about with Blake Snell's underlying performance, his velocity, whatever. All I know is he gave up 4 runs in that 5th inning, and that ended up being the difference in the game. At the time, it didn't feel like it was necessarily going to, because who knew if the Dodgers were going to score any runs. But in the end, it was just a disappointing series for the Dodgers. We're now 6 games into this 15-game stretch against what I called bad teams, when I said the Dodgers really ought to go 12-3 in this 15-game stretch. Well, so far they're 1-5, which means 12-3 is off the table. 9-5 or 10-5 is still technically on the table if they can pull off a 9-game winning streak starting right now. Based on how they're playing right now, doesn't feel super likely. And it's all of that adds up to why this feels like the low point in the season. I'm just glancing at the chat and I'm like, wait, did my chat glitch? I just saw the same comment twice. No, we have one of those guys who likes to post the same thing in the comments over and over again. So that happens, to add insult to injury or whatever. It's a frustrating time for sure. And I do have a Super 8 chat here that I want to hop into from Joe Pullia Matthias, $4.99 Super Chat. He says, this Dodger team is hot garbage, no heart, no fire, and it's on Dave. This is when a manager needs to flip a table and air someone out. Good grief. Thank you for the Super Chat. I don't think it's a case of the Dodgers players are unaware that they should be playing better. I don't think that flipping a table and yelling and screaming is going to do anything. I know that, especially for us Dodger fans who, a lot of us of my age or thereabouts grew up with Tommy Lasorda, very fiery, et cetera, love Tommy Lasorda and sometimes we want Dave Roberts to be like Tommy Lasorda. I don't think that would actually do anything, but I understand the sentiment, and so I'm not gonna tell anybody they're wrong. I don't think it would help, but that's okay. But yeah, it is a very frustrating time, and yet, as I mentioned, the Dodgers are still in first place. Which, thank you Padres for being terrible. The Dodgers are 5-5 in their last 10 games. The Padres are 2-8. That's why the Dodgers are in first place. The Padres right now are being even worse than the Dodgers. The concern is the Padres now go to play the Rockies, who are a bad team. And as we saw with the Dodgers a couple weeks ago, the Rockies can win some games too. They're no longer on pace to be the worst team in Major League history. But it's September 4th, and they do already have 101 losses. They're a bad team for sure. So that's who the Padres get to play for the next 3 games, which means the Padres have a very good chance to win a few games this weekend. So the Dodgers, who are playing the Orioles, who also are a relatively bad team this year, they're 12 games under 500. They're massively underperforming their preseason expectations. But they just swept the Padres. Dodgers need to battle this weekend. This is kind of, this weekend becomes, again, because I believe in #math baby, I won't say it's a must win, but yeah, I really need to see something from the Dodgers this weekend because the Padres are probably going to win a couple games this weekend. And if the Dodgers go get swept by another bad team and the Padres win 2 out of 3, suddenly the division is tied. And that's a rough thing. I see a comment from Craig in the chat that I'm going to get to in just a second. I do want to mention our sponsor, FanDuel, because over at FanDuel right now, despite everything, do you guys remember two nights ago? I wasn't on the show last night. I wasn't feeling well. So Clint and Kevin held it down. 2 nights ago, after the Dodgers lost, the Dodgers were at minus 350 to win the division. That was when they had a 2.5 game lead. They now, with the 2-game lead, are at minus 380. And a lot of that is just because another day off the schedule. Every day that ticks off the schedule with them still leading the division makes them a little more likely to lead the division at the end of the season. Now, if they play like this, no, they will not maintain their lead unless the Padres continue playing poorly. Although at that point, the Giants aren't going to pass the Padres and Dodgers. But right now, the way they're playing, the Giants have made up a lot of ground lately. And so, but it's either going to be the Dodgers or the Padres. And right now, it's most likely going to be the Dodgers because they're in first place and they have the tiebreaker. So that's why the betting odds have them as the favorite, because they're still the favorite. But they need to play better. So now I want to get to the comment from Craig Osterberg in the chat from this game tonight. If you weren't watching, congratulations for one, but the Dodgers did nothing for the first 8 innings. And then in the 9th inning, they put up a rally. Mookie Betts hit a home run. Then they rallied. They scored a couple more runs. They had the tying run on base. It's 5-3. they had 2 runners on base, first and second, and Ben Rortvedt, who was on the roster because he was just called up to be a third catcher. Will Smith is not going on the injured list, but he's not going to play for the next several days. And so they called up a third catcher. They sent Alex Freeland back to the minors, called up Ben Rortvedt to be the backup catcher. Ben Rortvedt is a break glass in case of emergency kind of catcher. He's not going to start a game for the Dodgers. And so Craig's question is, why not let Dalton Rushing hit? He had one of their hits tonight because the game came down to Dalton Rushing's spot in the lineup, but Ben Rortvedt was in that spot. And the technical answer to why not let Dalton Rushing hit is because Dalton Rushing was already out of the game by that point. After the top of the 8th inning, when Dalton Rushing batted, he made the second out of the top of the 8th inning. And then for the bottom of the 8th, Dave Roberts put Rortvedt in the game. And Matty Man in the chat says no other way to say it. That was a huge mistake, taking Rushing out of the game. In hindsight, it absolutely was. Dave Roberts said so himself. His reasoning was Dalton Rushing has been playing like twice a week for the last couple months. And now he's going to be playing every day until Will Smith is ready to play because Ben Rortvedt is not a major league catcher in any way, shape, or form other than the fact that he is currently a catcher on a major league roster. That's the only way that Ben Rortvedt is a major league catcher. So he will not be getting any starts. He won't be the kind of backup catcher who catches 1 or 2 games a week. No, until Will Smith is back, Dalton Rushing will be catching every game. And so Dave Roberts looked at the situation. Okay, Dalton Rushing just batted in the 8th inning. His spot in the lineup is very unlikely to come up again. We're down by 5 runs. We haven't scored in 17 innings. At that point, Dave Roberts decided the risk of, whether it's the risk of injury of, we just saw Will Smith and Dalton Rushing both get hit on their hands just a day or 2 ago. The risk of him getting injured, or more to the point, what Dave Roberts said after the game was he's caught twice a week for the last couple months, and now he's going to be playing every day. So let's take this opportunity to give him a little bit of a break. And Dave Roberts said, obviously, if I had known that the 9th inning would go the way it did, I wouldn't have taken him out of the game. So the question becomes, should Dave Roberts have anticipated that Dalton Rushing's spot in the lineup might come back up? And I don't mind Dave Roberts' reasoning. I also understand why people are upset about it. The Dodgers lost this game because their offense did nothing for 8 innings after doing nothing for 9 innings the day before. If the Dodgers offense had shown any signs of life, if it had been 12-7 instead of 5-0, same 5-run deficit, but 12-7, he probably doesn't take Rushing out of the game there. But like I said, the Dodgers offense hadn't scored in 17 innings. So should Dave Roberts have anticipated that they would wake up and say, oh, let's score now? I think it's hard to say he should have anticipated. Obviously, in hindsight, he wishes that Dalton Rushing had been in the game. I even wondered, I actually, if excuse me, on the All Dodgers Insiders Discord, whatever you want to call it, the members only Discord, 7 minutes before Ben Rortvedt came to the plate, I predicted that the game was going to end in a Ben Rortvedt strikeout with the tying run on base. I thought it would be 5-4. It was 5-3. But I predicted that would happen just because that's the funniest way to lose that game. To take a game that, Blake Snell pooped the bed, the offense pooped the bed, and yet find a way for people to think it was Dave Roberts' fault. Because the fact is, no, the offense should have scored earlier. Yes, Paul Skeens is a great pitcher. Know who's not a great pitcher? Yohan Ramirez. You get shut down by Paul Skeens, I get it, But Dave Roberts watched that happen, and then he watched them do nothing against Yohan Ramirez. And so, okay, if we're not doing anything against Yohan Ramirez, I know Yohan Ramirez. If we're not doing anything against him, our offense probably isn't doing anything tonight. Maybe that's wrong. And maybe really he should have done the math. And in this case, if it's even mathematically possible for Dalton Rushing's spot in the lineup to come up in the ninth inning in a meaningful spot, you don't pull him. Maybe. I don't know. Like I've said many times over the years, I don't believe there are a lot of right and wrong decisions that managers make. At least not the ones we talk about. Obviously, if you had Ben Rortvedt start at DH over Shohei Ohtani, that's a wrong decision, and that's obvious, and that's why nobody would do that. But in the decisions we actually talk about, I don't believe that there's right and wrong decisions. I think there's decisions that have a slightly better chance of working and a slightly worse chance of working. And I don't know the risk of injury or of, long-term wearing down injury of Dalton Rushing if he has to start 5 or 6 straight games after not playing very much for the last couple months. Is he going to hurt himself? The risk of injury there, because the fact is, if Dalton Rushing gets hurt right now, then Ben Rortvedt is getting 4 at-bats a game until Will Smith is ready to come back. So I understand Dave Roberts' desire to keep Rushing healthy. I don't know how that balances against the possibility of the offense waking up in the ninth inning and that spot in the lineup coming up with 2 outs and the tying run on base. If it had been 1 out and the tying run's on base, then they probably just have Rortvedt sack bunt just to stay out of the double play and get Shohei Ohtani to the plate or whatever. But ultimately, I don't think this was a wrong decision. I'm not saying it was the right decision. Obviously, as everyone, including Dave Roberts, admitted, it's a decision that he wishes has gone differently, but he didn't have a crystal ball at the time that he made the decision, and there wasn't much about this Dodgers offense that suggested that they were thinking about showing up in the ninth inning. Another super chat real quick from LLM213. Teo is on thin ice. Roberts is fed up with him. Yeah, we'll see. Obviously that Teo needs to hit. He did have 1 hit tonight. One of the Dodgers, they ended up with 8 hits. Several of them came in that last inning. But interestingly, the only 2 guys on the team with multiple hits was Miguel Rojas and Michael Conforto, which was another thing. People were upset about Michael Conforto being in the lineup, and he was one of only 2 guys with multiple hits. He had scored one of the runs in the ninth inning. It's, Alex Renteria in the chat says it was a wrong decision, period. And knowing Alex a bit from these chats, I think one of the main differences between me and Alex is he is a lot more willing to say things with the word period at them than I am. I just think there's a lot more gray area in baseball, in managing a baseball team, than a lot of people do. And I'm not saying I'm right. Obviously, I think I'm right because it's what I think. If I thought I was wrong, I would just change what I think. But I don't know that I'm right. But it works for me, and so I disagree. And that's okay. I will say that with all of this being the low point, I think that's all I'm going to talk about the Ben Rortvedt debacle. One other thing. I wondered out loud in the Discord, by the way, if you want to be in that Discord, just go to patreon.com/realfrg or scan the QR code on your screen right now. And for just $5 a month, you can join the All Dodgers Patreon Discord thing, or the $5 membership here on YouTube gets you access to. But the last thing I'll say about that is I wondered out loud in there if they might pinch hit for Rortvedt, even though they had already taken Dalton Rushing out of the game. They had both Alex Call and Kike Hernandez on the bench that they could have pinch hit for Rortvedt. What that would have meant, though, was if they had come back to tie the game or take the lead, they would have had to play the bottom of the ninth, which would have meant somebody catching. Now, they do have a third catcher on the roster. It's Will Smith. They could have, Will Smith's hand, as far as we can tell, is not broken. The scans have shown no fracture, which is why he's probably not going to go on the injured list. But they had a third catcher. They could have put Will Smith in. That would have been very out of character of the big picture approach that the Dodgers take. Will Smith, Ben Rortvedt is on the roster so that Will Smith doesn't have to play. And so to send him up there or to put them in a situation where Will Smith might have to come in the game just to avoid playing Ben Rortvedt, wouldn't make sense. So I wondered about that, but I dismissed it in my mind about as quickly as I said it. Really, it came down to, do you take Dalton Rushing out after what looks like his last at bat or not? And that's the thing that people are probably never going to agree on, and that's okay. So the other thing that I want to talk about here is, you can see it on the graphic here, why I'm still optimistic. And there's a couple reasons. And again, I want to make it clear, I am not telling you guys to be optimistic. I absolutely don't believe in telling other fans how to fan. I believe in, everybody does it differently. But what works for me is being optimistic, because I think about I think about last year in the NLDS. After game 3 of the NLDS last year, when the Dodgers lost that game to go down 2-1 to the Padres, it was the game that Walker Buehler pitched, and they had that terrible, second inning? I think it was the second inning, where the defense fell apart. Freddie Freeman made the throwing error on the throw that hit Manny Machado. There was a play where Miguel Rojas tried to take a play at second base on his own instead of flipping it to the bag and didn't get there in time. Just a debacle of a defensive inning. And then, Buehler kind of poured gas on the fire a little bit. And then Teo hits a grand slam to pull them within 1, and then the offense couldn't do anything else. You remember that game. Dodgers end up losing that game. They go down 2-1 in the series, and it felt very discouraging. The atmosphere. One person who I know watches this show, who I won't call by name, told me on Twitter that the season was over and he would see me in the spring. For me, I wasn't confident that the Dodgers would win that series, but I was still optimistic. And my reasoning was, I believe optimism is a choice. I believe that you can be pessimistic, and sometimes you'll be right, sometimes you'll be wrong. Or you can be optimistic, and sometimes you'll be right, and sometimes you'll be wrong. But if you're optimistic, if you're wrong, okay, no harm done. I can be sad when they lose. I'm 48 years old. I've watched the Dodgers lose a lot. I've watched them lose in the postseason a lot. I've watched them lose so much they didn't even make it to the postseason. Some younger fans don't really remember what that was like. I've watched a lot of bad Dodger teams, mediocre Dodger teams that were almost good enough to make the postseason. And I've watched a lot of good Dodger teams get knocked out of the postseason. I've been there in person twice when the Dodgers season ended. Once in 2015, I had to watch frickin' Yuris Familia celebrate on the mound for the Mets after winning Game 5 of the NLDS to beat the Dodgers. And in 2017, I was there in the stadium when the Dodgers lost to the cheating cheaters. Before we knew they were cheating cheaters. I had to watch Carlos Correa get engaged on the field at Dodger Stadium and then find out later they had cheated to win that series. I've watched that happen in person. And it sucks. But if you're pessimistic, you're just locking in the sucking. The analogy I draw, and it's not a great analogy, but I keep doing it, is comparing it to basketball and a guy getting into foul trouble. And what do you do when a guy's in foul trouble? You sit him on the bench so he doesn't get more fouls. But what's the penalty for fouling out? You have to come out of the game. So by sitting a guy on the bench, you're just locking in the penalty ahead of time. You're like, all right, dude, you got in foul trouble, so now the penalty exists. You're out of the game. And yeah, I understand all the basketball reasons why you do it, because you want him to be in for the most important minutes at the end, blah, 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 blah. But most of the time that you sit a guy because of foul trouble, he wouldn't have fouled out. And all you're doing is locking in the penalty. And it's the same way with pessimism in baseball. You're locking in the grumpiness, the misery, whatever you want to call it. Right now, if you have decided this Dodgers team sucks, they're not going to win the World Series, then you're already sad about the Dodgers not winning the World Series. And yet, like my buddy who last year, after Game 3 of the NLDS, said, season's over, see you in spring, he locked in the misery that never would have come. He never would have fouled out. The Dodgers never did get eliminated last year. They did win the World Series. And for the very few of us who remained optimistic the whole time, was I confident they were going to win that series? No. Was I optimistic? Yes, because optimism is a choice. And so I never had to be miserable last year. That's the thing. Everybody else, not everybody, a lot of other Dodger fans spent time being miserable last year. I never had to because of that choice. Now, optimism isn't just a choice because the fact is, if you're a Pirates fan right now, there's no point being optimistic that because you've played well the last 2 weeks, you're going to win the World Series, because the Pirates are not going to win the World Series. They're not going to make it to the postseason. So it's not just, optimism isn't blind optimism. But that gets to the other half of my equation of why I'm optimistic, which is that there's a reason we're disappointed in this Dodgers team right now. It's because they should be better than this. The players on this team should be playing better. And yeah, you can look at Michael Conforto, who isn't going to play better probably. But you also have Shohei Ohtani, who probably is going to play better. Mookie Betts is playing pretty well. Freddie Freeman is probably going to play better. Max Muncy's going to come back and play better than insert whoever Alex Freeland has been playing. Tommy Edman's going to come back, which is going to then improve your outfield defense, put Andy Pages in a spot he's better at, put Michael Conforto in a spot more suited for his talents, meaning not on the field. All these things. And this team should be better than this, which means most likely they will be better than this. And so the fact that right now, even with this low point, you see it on the screen, low point. Now on the screen, I remain optimistic because the Dodgers are in first place right now, despite being at this low point in the season. And they are likely to play better. Not guaranteed to play better. I'm not sure that they're going to play better against the Orioles than they did against the Pirates. If they don't, I will be less optimistic on Sunday night than I am right now. But I think they probably will play better because they're a better team than that. Maybe today's ninth inning wakes them up or something. Maybe they just start playing better, because it's not like there's an obvious reason why they're playing terribly. It's just that the players aren't playing well enough. Manuel says that he's not listening to me because I always talk about being optimistic. And I know that's a common complaint about me, that I'm too happy. Hate that. Yeah, you know what? Maybe it's my brand. I don't know, but I am a big believer in only saying things I believe. And right now, I look at the rosters and I think, I like the Dodgers' chances in October. Yeah, they're going to have to play better than they are right now, but I think they probably will, because the players on their team are better than they're playing right now. And so that's why I'm optimistic. I see. This is interesting. I didn't know I had this power. He says, Jeff, you're the reason, #grammar, why we lose. You always overlook bad teams and end up losing. Stop predicting the future. I told you, I'm optimistic the Dodgers are going to do better. I'm not confident. I'm not sure. But one thing I'm very sure of is that me overlooking bad teams has absolutely nothing to do with whether the Dodgers win or lose. That's the thing I know 100% for sure. We are fans. The players are not aware that we exist, other than in a generic large scale. Yes, they know the fans exist. Very few of the Dodgers players know that Jeff Snyder exists. Very few of them watch this show. If any of them do catch this show and they hear me saying the Dodgers should win 12 out of 15 in this next stretch, they're not going to say, you're right, we're a lot better than them, I'm going to stop trying. It's just it's a ridiculous thing to say. And so I generally don't call our listeners ridiculous, but when you say I'm the reason the Dodgers, I guess you said you're the reason we lose, and you said, you are the reason. So there's a lot of things. Maybe you're not saying I'm the reason the Dodgers lose. Hard to parse that sentence. But if you're saying that I, Jeff Snyder, am the reason the Los Angeles Dodgers Baseball Club has been losing, I say that's ridiculous. This is a good one. Ghost Bear in the chat says, Jeff, how did you feel in 2020 when the Dodgers were down in the NLCS 3-1? I wish that I had it on record how I felt, because I was in Seattle that week. It was my kids' fall break. We were in Seattle visiting our best friends who live up there. And so I actually watched that game 4 of the NLCS on my phone while walking around doing like a ghost tour of Seattle. After the game, I was bummed for sure. Partly because Clayton Kershaw had gotten the loss, got knocked around a little bit in that game 4. I am the biggest Clayton Kershaw fan in the world, meaning I'm a Clayton Kershaw fan and I'm the biggest person in the world. I'm a huge Clayton Kershaw fan, and so I was bummed for him. But it had only been one day since I watched the Dodgers score 11 runs in the first inning against that same Braves team. And so it was like 3 games to 1. Yeah, it's not super likely, but I remained optimistic. I was less sure because the odds were against them. And then the next day, on my best friend's birthday, the best friend I was visiting in Seattle, the best friend who is a Braves fan, I watched Will Smith hit a homer off Will Smith, and the Dodgers come back and win that game. And I got a little more optimistic. And then game 6, Dodgers win. I get a little more optimistic. And then that play where the Braves, against all odds, somehow didn't score in that inning, the play where Justin Turner ends up doing the Superman tag on Dansby Swanson, then turns and throws it, and Corey Seager tags out Austin Riley at third base. I think I got all those names right. It was, yeah, I was always optimistic that year. And the reason I say I wish I had it on record is because I was in Seattle and we were out doing that tour, I didn't do a podcast episode that night. Vince, my old podcast partner over on Locked On Dodgers, Vince did a solo episode. And Vince's episode, you can go find that episode. I don't encourage giving them traffic, but maybe one old episode is okay. But you go watch the episode. Vince's entire episode after that game 4 loss to the Braves was, here's why I still feel okay about this series. And it turned out to work out well. The Dr. V says, okay, Jeff, what's the single biggest reason for this year's underperformance? I wish I knew. I think if I knew, I would probably have a better job than podcasting. I wish anybody knew. In basic terms, the good players aren't playing goodly. And that's basically what it boils down to. The players aren't playing as well as they're supposed to. And, there's been some injuries and there's, some things, but ultimately, if Mookie Betts had started playing better earlier in the season, the Dodgers would have a better record right now. If Freddie Freeman hadn't gone through that terrible month-long slump, the Dodgers would have a better record right now. If Max Muncy hadn't been injured twice, the Dodgers would have a better record right now. There's a lot of things. There is no one reason, but, underperformance is underperformance. That's kind of the question answers itself. The reason for the underperformance is the players are underperforming. That's the best I can get at it. I'm going to need more information on this. Alex, he says, why do you think that, Jeff? Why do I think what? And maybe it was higher in the chat. It's hard to keep an eye on the chat the whole time, but in the end, yeah, the Dodgers need to play better because they have the players to play better. The front office has put the team in position to win by having good players, living players. Ultimately it comes down to the players playing. And when you look at FanDuel, again, our sponsor, tomorrow's game against the Orioles, as grumpy as we all are about the Dodgers right now, tomorrow's game against the Orioles, the Dodgers are currently minus 164 favorites to win that game. Heavy favorites to win. Part of that is because former Dodger farmhand Dean Kramer is pitching for the Orioles, and he's not great. Now, we've watched enough Dodger baseball this year to get a little bit nervous about when a not great pitcher pitches against the Dodgers, but they've also done well against some not great pitchers too. And so Dean Kramer gives up a lot of hits, doesn't strike out a lot of guys, has a 4.52 ERA, and is roughly deserving of that 4.52 ERA. The Dodgers have Tyler Glasnow going. The Dodgers are a better team. Dodgers should win tomorrow. FanDuel thinks so. I think so. But the players have to show up and do it. And that's the hard part is you got to play the games on the field. I I could see in the chat that a lot of the optimism that I have is not shared. Alex says, Jeff, please don't give me the odds. They were favored against the Pirates, D-backs, Rockies, etc. Yeah, and well, also you look at their overall records against the Rockies and D-backs this year. I guess D-backs, they have a losing record. Rockies, they've done pretty well against. But main reason I give you the odds is because FanDuel is a sponsor of this show. So that's, that's part of the show. Take it for what it's worth. Got another super chat, a couple of them. One from Noah Ortega, $1.99. He says, we were going to lose the 2024 World Series after Tyler Glasnow got hurt. There was plenty of reasons to be pessimistic last year, and it ended up working out for the Dodgers. Richie Flores, $4.99 super chat. This will be a shocker. Jeff is just giving a different way of dealing with the BS performance. Don't get used to me agreeing with you. I get the point. Yeah. I definitely won't get used to you agreeing with me, Richie. Don't you worry about that. And so I guess I'm agreeing with you on that. So you don't get used to that either. But you know what? If you're right more often, I'll agree with you more often. Just kidding. It's players got to play. As Taylor Swift said, the player going to play. And I'm going to stay optimistic. And the Dodgers are going to play in October, and I hope they get hot at the right time. Right now is the worst stretch that the Dodgers have had in the last decade. If you look at 50-game stretches, Dodgers have only had a couple of times when they even had a losing record over the course of 50 games. Well, right now is one of those times. This is the worst 50-game stretch the Dodgers have ever played. And this 50-game stretch currently started with some wins, which means it's going to get worse if the Dodgers don't start winning. Their rolling 50-game stretch is going to go down unless they start winning some games. But, I have the 1988 Dodgers video, music by Glenn Frey of the Eagles. And there's one stretch where Vin Scully is narrating the video and talking about the rough stretch they hit during the season. And Glenn Frey is singing, time to do some soul searching. And, this is the soul searching time of the season. Ever since that video as a child, I've always referred to the soul searching time of the season. And right now, it's the worst soul searching time the Dodgers have had in the last decade. Probably the worst stretch they've had since the beginning of the 2013 season when they were terrible. But soul searching. And the fact is, because they are still in position that they will get to the postseason, they can turn it around. And I totally understand people who don't think that they will. I saw somebody in the chat just a minute ago, and I just lost it. I should have started when I saw it, but excuse me. But I know that people don't necessarily believe that the Dodgers will turn it around. I do think it's more likely than not that they play better than they have. They're going to have to play a lot better to win the World Series, obviously, because once you get to the playoffs, you only play against good teams, or at least teams that were good enough to make the playoffs, which is who the Dodgers have been struggling. That's not who they've been struggling against the last few series. They've been struggling against teams that won't sniff the playoffs. Maybe that's good news. That if they're only bad against bad teams, that actually bodes well for the postseason. I don't think that's the case. I think they just are a very inconsistent team that is struggling. But I think they have enough good players that they will turn it around. And, Noah, interesting point. Noah in the chat says, Jeff, I think we've won every game immediately after you had your hat backwards, so let's test it out now. I don't think that's accurate, but you know what? There's not much I won't. Should we do sideways? I don't know. All right, we'll go backwards the rest of this episode. Backwards hat, see if that helps any. Do we need to throw Manny Machado's head around a little bit more? I don't know. I could rip off a Julio bobblehead's head or something. Whatever it is, they need to play better is what it boils down to. And that is one player at a time, one at bat at a time. It's not something, and that's why I don't really believe in the idea of go scream and yell, because that's a big picture thing. But what the Dodgers need right now is every at bat say, okay, I need a base hit right here. And, and then you get a base hit. And you're not going to get it every time, but, each at bat needs to have that focus, needs to have that result go their way, because that's how you win a game, is by a series of results going your way in different at bats. It's basic and it's annoying, but yeah, that's the fact. I do want to tell you guys something exciting. Actually, first, I want to tell you a little bit about another sponsor we have called Bleav Me, because Bleav Me makes it quick, easy, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone vulnerable. If you have an online presence, whether you're well known or not, your data has probably been compromised, definitely at risk of being compromised, because data brokers make a profit off your data. Your data is a commodity, and anyone on the web can buy your private details. This can lead to identity theft, phishing attempts, and harassment. But now you can protect your privacy with Bleav Me. Look, I have an online presence. Again, I'm not famous except in my own mind, but I get a lot of phone calls. I get a lot of text messages. People who have never met me, are never going to meet me, trying to sell me something or trying to scam me into something. And I don't like it. Well, removing your data from the internet will help you protect yourself from, this harassment, stalking, whatever you want to call it. And Bleav Me will remove your data from hundreds of data broker websites. So take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Bleav Me. Make sure I got the right thing on the screen when I tell you that. Sign up for Bleav Me now at a special discount for our listeners. Today, you can get 20% off your Bleav Me plan by texting HIT, H-I-T, to 64,000. The only way to get 20% off is to text HIT to 64,000, 64000. That's HIT, H-I-T, to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. All right, and we're back here. And I want to tell you guys about something. Dodgers Suck asked if does Conforto have Bleav Me. I think somebody else needs the Delete Conforto app, and maybe that's coming. I don't know. But I want to tell you guys something exciting that we're going to be doing. Hopefully, things will be happier by the time this happens. We are a week away, a little over a week away. Next weekend, next Saturday evening, Saturday, September 3rd. No, what's the date? I think it's the 13th. Yeah. Saturday, September 13th. We will be doing a live watch party. The Dodgers will be in San Francisco that weekend, taking on the Giants. And we, at All Dodgers, Clint and I, will be at the Pico Rivera Golf Club. Saturday, September 13th, live watch party. And then after the game, we will be doing a live, recording the podcast in front of a live studio audience. Starting at 5 p.m. on Saturday, September 13th, at the Pico Rivera Golf Club. There will be prizes and giveaways, happy hour until 7 p.m. We'll watch the game together, and then Clint and I will do a live recording of this very podcast immediately afterwards that you guys can stay and watch and cheer and boo and heckle. And maybe not heckle. I don't know. I haven't thought much about it. I just said it. So maybe I said it so you're allowed to heckle. I don't know. But I'll heckle back. I'll do that. So come join us next weekend, September 13th, Saturday, at the Pico Rivera Golf Club. It should be a lot of fun. With that said, I'm going to just scan the chat and see. Steve says he's at work that night with a crying emoji. That is cry emoji worthy. That's a bummer. But you know what? Calling sick, it's not that hard. John Co 98 says I look like Jack Black. Yeah, you know what? I am not the greatest podcaster in the world. I am just a tribute. What else do we got? Severin Sound Artist says Dodgers front office and management seems to be using too much analytics, which clearly is not working out. I'd need to see an example of what you think demonstrates that, because the fact is every major league team uses analytics. The teams that are best at analytics have the most success. So I don't know what you mean by that they're using too much analytics, because I'd have to see an example of what you think to know whether or not or at least know how to argue with it. Richie Flores, because this is what Richie Flores asked. He asked if F-bombs are allowed. No, there won't be F-bombs. Obviously, like during the watch party, you can say whatever you want, but don't be yelling F-bombs while we're recording the live podcast, or I will invite you to exit the building. Swell and Sausage, Super Chat, $1.99 says, do you think maybe without roids, 30 plus is old again? I don't know. I definitely, obviously, there were plenty of players during the steroid era whose careers lasted longer than they otherwise might have because of steroids. But since we don't have any idea, who's currently using PEDs and who's not, and there's so many other factors that go into aging besides PEDs. But yeah, obviously, at some point, people won't age as well without PEDs, but I don't think 30 is a magic number or anything. Tall Ken Chit says, let's experiment. Let Conforto back after Kim. If Kim gets on, let's see if Conforto can move him to another base. I would guess Michael Conforto has very few sacrifice bunts in his career, and that doesn't really have anything to do with the Dodgers analytics department. Michael Conforto has 0 sacrifice bunts in his career. I think the best bet, if it's Kim on base, would be to have Kim steal second base. That's one of the nice things about Ha-Seong Kim is he can get himself to another base. So do that. Just looking through the chat, see what else we got. Carl says, screw the lefty-righty crap. If you can't hit, you can't hit no matter who's pitching. Maybe that's an example of some of the analytics that people don't like. But the fact is, lefties do hit righties better, and righties do hit lefties better. And obviously there's exceptions, and it's more extreme than others. But this isn't made up data. This is based on how well people do. And I mean, if you can't see the difference between, name a guy, Alex Freeland batting left-handed versus Alex Freeland batting right-handed, it's a stark difference. That's what the numbers say, and numbers are based on things that actually happened. So Ken's point says Conforto got 2 hits and Kim did not move him. All right, yeah. I mean, Ha-Seong Kim didn't have any hits tonight. Yeah, doesn't mean he won't have hits tomorrow. Doesn't mean he will. It means in every game, every guy. Tony Gwynn had offers. Wade Boggs had offers. Ty Cobb had offers. Pick a guy. He had games where he didn't get a hit. And obviously, the worse a hitter you are, the more often you're not going to have a hit. We don't know what Ha-Seong Kim is right now. We don't know. I assume he's somewhere between the guy who was batting 400 early in his career and the guy who batted 193 the last month before he got hurt. I don't know where he falls in, but he'll have to play for us to see it. Kevin says, is this the beginning of the Dodgers' downfall and becoming a bad team for years? I sincerely doubt it. The Dodgers are too good at what they do as far as scouting and development. They're too good at having a lot of money to sign free agents. They're too good at a lot of things to become a bad team for years, as long as they have a ownership group and a front office that are committed to winning. And another thing I'm sure of is that the ownership group and the front office they want the Dodgers to win at least as much as we do. Jason Diamond says maybe some of these guys should just get in better shape so they can perform. I wish it was that easy. I don't know who you mean specifically, but I mean, physical condition doesn't seem to be the problem. Ha-Seong Kim's legs look pretty good, and yet he went 0 for today. I mean, they all seem to be in pretty good shape. The guy who has carried the team the most is Max Muncy, and he's maybe the closest to not being in shape. And maybe Jason's saying Muncy wouldn't be hurt if he was in better shape. I think that's, the dude slammed his head into his knee. It wasn't, let's see. Classic Fire Dave Roberts comment. I won't pop that up on the screen. Nando 390 in a rare non-Clayton Kershaw bashing comment says, why does the Pirates ball girl play better defense than Teo? We haven't seen the ball girl's range, honestly. Teo, once he gets to it, he almost always catches it. It's getting to it. And, ball girl had good positioning. She didn't have to. We haven't seen her range, honestly. So I don't know who would win that battle. Alex says, Jeff, what do you want to see from this team? Obviously to win, but from the players, management. I think players win and lose baseball games the vast majority of the time. So I think management put together a very talented team. I think Dave Roberts is doing a pretty good job. I know people are upset about the Conforto thing. I think as soon as Tommy Edman's back, we see Conforto in the lineup a lot less. But from the players, I want them to play better. And that's, I know that's an unsatisfying answer, but that, for me, that is the answer. I don't need them to be more intense or, if it's focus that they need, if some individuals need more focus, Kike Hernandez has said that his October performance is because he can focus better in the postseason. Okay, if that's what Kike needs to do, then do it. I don't think it's a focus thing necessarily for all of them. I really don't believe that Freddie Freeman struggles with focus. I think just sometimes the pitcher beats him. And what I want is for that to happen less often. And that's why I believe it will, because I do think they are very talented. Cole says, Jeff, what percent do you say Conforto will not be on the team when Muncy and Edman come back? I still think that's the most likely scenario, that Conforto gets cut. Having Alex Freeland sent back down today means he can't be called back up for 10 days. And so, Max Muncy started his rehab assignment today. Tommy Edman is still on his rehab assignment. So they're both coming back relatively soon. Since Freeland won't be able to come back, even if they did want him back, obviously, Justin Dean is an obvious option to be sent down if they go that route. Whenever Will Smith is ready to play again, then they don't need 3 catchers. So Ben Rortvedt gets sent back down, which opens up a roster spot. So because they had to send Freeland down to make room for Rortvedt, I think there's a little bit better chance that Conforto survives, but I don't think he's going to play much, even if he stays on the roster, because between him not hitting and the Dodgers' best defensive outfield not including him, it's just, if everybody's healthy, I just don't see Conforto getting much playing time. And obviously there's some hope there, but also that's what I think. Jason Diamond says, fire Dave Roberts. His voice has become stale in the locker room. And I think I disagree with that comment. Let's see. That's I'm not seeing anything else in the chat that's jumping out at me. But all in all, this is no fun. I appreciate all of you being here. I know sometimes after a game that's not fun to watch, it's also not fun to then listen to somebody talk about the game that wasn't fun to watch. And that's why I didn't focus as much on this game. And I tried to be a little bit annoyingly optimistic, because I like to be that way. I turned my head around because Noah asked me to. Whatever it takes, I'm going to do my part, because that one guy said that I'm the reason they lose. So maybe I can be the reason they win. But all in all, I've said it before, and it's cheesy, but people like cheese. I don't love the Dodgers because they win. I want the Dodgers to win because I love them. And like I said, I have been through a lot of bad Dodger teams and mediocre Dodger teams and decent Dodger teams and great Dodger teams. I've seen it all. And the one constant is I love the Dodgers. I think Dodger blue is the best color in the world. I think the Dodgers have the best uniforms in the world. I think they have the best stadium in the world. I am thankful every day that when the Dodgers and Giants were moving west and they were having conversations, that the coin flip or whatever landed on the Dodgers moving to LA, where my dad, 4-year-old Rocky Snyder, lived. And so the Snyders became a Dodger family. Because if it had gone the other way, I would have grown up in a Giants family, because the Snyders became fans of the team that moved to LA. So I'm glad it was the Dodgers and not the Giants that moved to LA, because orange is terrible. It's a terrible, ugly color. They have terrible, ugly players, and sometimes those guys come to the Dodgers and then I rip their heads off bobbleheads. Ultimately, I love being a Dodger fan, whether they win or lose. I love the Dodgers, and it's definitely more fun when they win. But I love watching Dodger baseball even when they lose. Growing up, I didn't get to watch a ton of games. They didn't televise. They never televised home games. They'd televise like 15 road games a year. And then if they happened to be on the NBC game of the week on Saturdays, I could watch them. And so a lot of my fandom growing up following the team was reading the newspaper the next morning, seeing how they did, reading the box scores and everything, and looking forward to, hey, they're the game of the week next week, so I get to watch them. Oh, they're in San Francisco this weekend, so they're going to show it on KTTV. The world has changed in how we follow the Dodgers, but it's still so much fun for me to watch the Dodgers play baseball, even when they play like crap. And I hope they stop playing like crap, because it's even more fun to watch them play well. It's the most fun to watch them win the World Series. I've gotten to do that 3 times that I remember. They've won it 4 times in my lifetime, 3 that I was old enough to remember. And I am looking forward to having that experience for a 4th time. I hope it happens this year. I'm going to remain optimistic that it's going to happen this year until the final out. It's not over till the fat lady sings. And when that fat lady sings, I will either be happy or sad. Last year, I was happy. Other years, I've been sad, but I ain't locking in the sadness till I have to. And so Dodgers start a series tomorrow against the Orioles. As I mentioned, they are favorites to win that game. It's Tyler Glasnow against Dean Kramer. Dean Kramer went to the Orioles in the Manny Machado trade back in 2018. You remember Manny Machado, the guy with the chicken legs? Yeah, that guy. When the Dodgers got him, they sent Dean Kramer to the Orioles. Now they get to pound on Dean Kramer tomorrow, hopefully. I need the offense to show up. It'll be fun. We will probably do an episode after the game. Might depend on how the game goes. We'll see. But we're going to keep talking Dodgers. We're going to keep loving the Dodgers. I know you guys, for the most part, love the Dodgers. I know there's some Dodger haters in this chat, and I appreciate you. Your stats count too. But ultimately, we all love the Dodgers, even if we show it in different ways. And the way I choose to show it is optimism. Again, I'm not telling you to be, Jason, I hope this is just, you just want to show off your bad grammar. It says this year you're going to be sad, Jeff. It's YOU_RE, and maybe I will, maybe I won't. But whatever I am, happy or sad, the sadness won't happen until there's reason to be sad, and not a minute sooner. So that's what we're going to do. Go Dodgers. Again, next Saturday, the 13th, Pico Rivera Golf Club starting at 5 p.m. Happy hour till 7 p.m. We'll watch the Dodger game together. Then we will do a live episode of All Dodgers after. Clint and me recording in front of a live studio audience. Thanks to the Bleav Network. Thanks to our sponsor, FanDuel. Thanks to all you for being here live. Be sure to hop in the comments. Join our Discord server by going to patreon.com/realfrg. $5 a month gets you part of the Discord server. And I think that's probably all I have to say other than bye.